What about what we have with like Flock Freeform? With Flock Freeform, we already have this where you can type in, I'm looking for a red truck with a blue bumper sticker, green bumper sticker. And it'll start looking up all the red trucks with green bumper stickers that it can find that have passed through the LPR cameras. Can you do that in real time? Can I tell the Flock Aerodome, hey, I'm looking for a red truck, and while I'm flying, it's identifying red trucks because I'm at 400 feet, fully zoomed out. The human eye can only look at a couple pixels at a time, but AI can look at every frame and look for a red truck and tell you there's your red truck right there. And eventually, do I even have to tell the AI, look for a red truck? It's going to pull that information from our Flock 911 call transcript. It's going to pull that information from the CAD integration, the CAD notes, and go, by the way, you're looking for a red truck. And then you're going, okay, cool, sounds good. This gets built over time to a point where all of a sudden you're like, I haven't touched that drone for a while. And it's pretty much done everything I need.
Hey, Dalton.
Oh, hey, Jamie.
Interesting episode today.
Yeah, because we have a very, very interesting individual.
Which we haven't introduced yet.
No, we haven't.
If you could, welcome, by the way, Rahul.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, man. If you could introduce yourself to those folks that do watch this so that they know who you are, where you're from, why you're here.
Yeah. My name's Rahul Sidhu. I'm previously the founder and CEO of Aerodome, and now the VP of Aviation at Flock Safety, where I run our drone business, DFR, everything that is basically aviation related to Flock Safety. My background before this, I was the founder and CEO of Spider Tech and sold that company. But my background's in public safety. I've worked as a full-time police officer, now still reserve police officer in the Los Angeles area. Worked as a firefighter, paramedic. Did the flight medic thing for a minute. I'm a manned aircraft pilot. So aviation and public safety are the two things I love most, and I get to do it here at Flock Safety.
I want to ask real fast, how do you go from cop to super successful entrepreneur? Because I can say that because I was a cop. But
yeah,
I'm not like a super successful entrepreneur. So
I would go to venture capital meetings, and they just kind of knew that I was probably carrying a gun. And they're like, just give him money. They're like, just get him out of here. No, the reality is I was more of like a tech focused guy before I became a cop. Playing with little apps and trying to make my own thing all the time. Never really knew how to code, but I understood how to do something like that. And so even when I became a paramedic, I had a little app that helped send EKGs directly to the hospitals before you get there to cut down the amount of time it took to treat someone who's having a heart attack. And when I got into policing, I was immediately thinking about where can we use technology to make this better? So my whole focus in the last 10 years has been doing that in policing, using tech. And that's just something that my brain just, unfortunately and fortunately operates that way as I think through solving problems. So it was just something that was how I've always just been raised and focused my time on, is just how do we use tech to do something.
So along those same lines, actually it has nothing to do with it. Did you notice that he fell for the wear the Hawaiian shirt?
Yeah, let's just address the elephant in the room, okay?
He just always dresses like this.
You guys made an ass out of me today.
Hey,
okay.
It's our job.
At least he doesn't have his shirt and tie on.
That's true.
Yeah, well, you told me it's a casual vibe. We wear Hawaiian shirts. You posted something on social media. We wear Hawaiian shirts on this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey guys, I'm in a group chat with you, so the audience knows.
I recall
and
this.
I said, I'm wearing my Hawaiian shirt. And then I showed up, and look at how Sunday proper you two are. And I'm over here full vibes. Yes.
This is not what you normally wear.
Okay, but also, I do like to wear this. So I'm not upset at that. I'm just upset that you didn't match me in my energy.
So I've known you for a while, going back to the days when you were at Spider Tech, and our agency was a customer agency of that company. And so fast forward, there was a drone shindig down in Southern California about 2 years ago-ish, and somebody texted me and they're like, hey, have you seen this Aerodome? Yeah, right? And we were in the throes of find a DFR, right? We had a new chief, the new chief's initiative. What's up, Bobby? New chief's initiative was, I want DFR, right?
Yeah.
So we are trialing everything that was out there at the time, and I get a hold of you, right? And you say, hey, we're about to fly down here in Redondo Beach, right? So I go down there to Redondo Beach to see this, and you know how I always describe when you go to IACP and you look at one of the booths and something grabs your eye and you're like, I want that, even if you don't need it, right?
Yeah.
So I see Aerodome and I'm just thinking, okay, that's the answer, right? So when you designed Aerodome, not the whole company, I'm talking about what people know of Aerodome to be, so the product, right? When you designed that, what went into it when it came to operational efficiency combined with aesthetics? Because it is aesthetically pleasing. The platform is something that you can look at and go, I want to mess with that, right? Yeah. So is that what it is?
It's art. Yeah.
How do you know what aesthetically pleasing looks like?
How do I know what art is?
Yeah.
We're really talking about it. Yeah.
Look, I think it all kind of comes down to a few things. Number one, I spun up a DFR program at my agency, Redondo Beach, as a reserve officer in March of 2020. And I've been obsessed with DFR for now 5 years, basically, helping agencies do this. I talked to a number of companies that are now building, DFR stuff today. And I said, hey, if you want to build DFR, like I can tell you now, having spent time as a user, like doing thousands of DFR flights myself, which direction to go with this. And if you don't, I'm going to build it. And nobody really did it. So I got the team together and we started building it. Now, to your point, why does it feel the way it does? And the design decisions that went into play. It's actually kind of a funny story. My belief was this can't feel complicated. If you actually build this with who's probably going to be sitting in the seat, you're thinking about real-time crime center operators. You're thinking about like that young cop that's like in their 30s or 20s and like is really good at playing video games, the Call of Duty generation. And I thought, I want that person to pick our thing and be the best at doing our thing because it feels natural to them. So video gaming became kind of the foundation to how we thought about how we build this. And I took my old Indian dad to run an experiment. I said, Dad, sit down and play these 5 games. And he's like, I don't care about this. And I'm like, just do it. I was going to do the Indian accent once on this podcast.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, for 10 of our.
I wasn't.
Yeah. So I had him sit down and he played a bunch of games. And the one that he felt like was easiest and most intuitive and like responsive for him was a game called Overwatch, which won Game of the Year a couple years ago. And I reached out to Nick Hamer, shout out Nick, who is a senior principal designer of that game. I said, I need you to build a drone experience that feels like a video game like Overwatch. And he came on board and started working full time and putting this whole thing together. And it's not just about the way it looks and the UI, it's even the control mechanisms. When you fly a drone, you're usually flying it like complicated, like the drone does this and you have to control the camera this. And I said like, take Call of Duty on a computer and Overwatch on a computer and just make it feel like that. So WASD is how you move every video game ever on a PC, and you move the mouse in whatever direction the mouse is pointing and you hit forward, it's going to go in that direction. And so that's the way it feels. It feels that way.
Yeah.
And I do this now, like every time we do a demo, I go to like the chief of police or I say somebody, to whoever's in the room and I'm like, I bet you can fly this in 90 seconds. I can teach this to you like that quickly in front of everybody. And they get it. Because it just hold this button to go forward, move this to move your mouse. This is how you zoom in. Congratulations, here's your certificate.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to focus on.
You're a pilot. Congratulations. Are you glad that your dad didn't say Super Mario Brothers though?
He's like, oh, I wouldn't have put Pong in front of him because it'd have been like, oh yes.
Pong is the way.
Yeah, this is good. This is good.
That's funny.
That was a really stressful experience for him. Because he's like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you making me do this? I'm like, I can't explain it to you. I just need you to pick one.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think he just picked the last one I gave him. He was like, just this one. This is the one. This is the best one.
It's fine. And he's over at the home laughing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I tell that story. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, Dad, you know that built the whole thing? He's like, oh, okay. Cool, man.
As long as he doesn't ask you for any royalties, then it's fine.
No. He's well taken care of now. He's happy.
So if you look at as defined now, DFR 1.0, right? Mm-hmm. Which honestly was what we were trialing, right? Over and over.
Everyone kind of starts that way.
Yeah. Seemed to make sense. The whole concept of we're going to throw somebody on a roof. They're going to be our pilot / VO / battery swapper, et cetera, right? All made sense to us, but it really did come down to money, right? For us, it did. It came down to not just money, but logistics around personnel, right? Yep. So if I hire one person, that's 40 hours a week, right? Mm-hmm. And so I have to hire many to get some, and then if one calls in sick, now I have to do. So you extrapolate that out, man, and it is way more than what it looks like on face value. So What went into your thought process? Was it as simple as, I just want to come up with a solution that doesn't have to rely on that? Or was there more to that?
We went backwards from like the first principles thought process on this, which was like, we want the drones, we want the minimum amount of people to control the maximum amount of drones and have the maximum amount of impact. And that meant, where do we start cutting out people that don't need to exist in this process? And the obvious one was like, nobody needs to be on the roof. If you have a drone station that can handle the inspection of the drone, the launching of the drone, the swapping of the batteries, and then you have the ability to fly beyond visual line of sight, and you don't need a visual observer, you've now just cut this operation down from 2 bodies per drone to 1. And then it came down to like, okay, well, how do you do one to many? One person in the RTCC or anywhere else flying multiple drones. That just came down to a safe and easy experience that focused on reducing the cognitive load. Some of that might be like automated, that drone goes here and I'm picture-in-picture flying while this drone's, I'm actually actively flying this one. But what the FAA wanted to see is like, can this be safer? So we had to build in safety mechanisms that ensure that if the FAA pilot was, or if the drone pilot was like incapacitated, you know, or went to go get a cup of coffee, and a drone is, a drone is flying directly to a call for service, and an aircraft comes in and there's nobody at the seat, which you're not supposed to do, but let's say that scenario happens. Well, the drone for us will auto mitigate that threat and determine, oh, there's an aircraft coming in. Here it is. Here's the altitude. Let me lower. Let me ensure that aircraft can pass safely, and then I can raise back my altitude if I need to. So you have to think about safety, and then you have to think about, like I said, reducing cognitive load, which means the piloting experience has to be so simple that flying more than one drone at a time is an easy experience. And we actually, again, went back to video games. So the video games that we originally used for just flying the drone is one thing, but there are video games out there where you have to control multiple units to like win a battle, for example. And we went, okay, well, how is that experience easy? It's a combination of just getting the right hotkeys to shift screens, and then being able to send one thing and reliably knowing it'll get there, and that thing alerting you and letting you know I'm there. That whole experience, again, needs to feel like that. And that's, the more you do that, the more you reduce the need for like personnel resources that you might not have as an agency, even though you want a full rollout for DFR everywhere 24/7.
Now, how many drones can you control? Like, because I actually don't know the answer to this question. So with Aerodome, do we have a recommended number that you could possibly do?
So there's a technology answer, there's a regulatory answer, and then every person's going to be a little bit different. From a technology answer, our limit is 4. We think that once you get past 4 drones, despite how much you're able to, to minimize that, you're going to get to a point where like safety becomes an issue, no matter how good the technology is. Now, theoretically, you could send a bunch of drones; they'll all automatic mitigate, 12. But viewing the screens becomes like it's just not as effective anymore in the first place to be able to fly these 4 drones, because you're just gonna have 3 wasting battery while you're looking at 1. It's easy to say flying 2 is super simple. 1 drone that takes the place of another drone, so you can have 24/7 uptime on an incident. That's a super easy one. Now, from a regulatory standpoint, the FAA has given a waiver, let's say the Chula Vista Police Department, to let you do a 2-for-1 in that battery swap. That's like super easy to do. I think that I'm sure there's going to be people who can fly 8, who can fly 12. I think ultimately we're going to learn about this as we go and say, hey, let's raise the limit. Let's go to 6. Let's go to 8 to ensure the experience is good, as long as the FAA also deems that safe to do.
It's interesting to me, if we go into the big debate right now, it's honestly, I don't know, it's not even a debate for me. So if you look at altitude you can fly at, right? Just a hobbyist or not, right? So law enforcement, hobbyist, whomever it is, right? Altitude you can fly at, and then others that come in to say, but we can do this and it's good. And so, not to dumb this down too much, but here's my take on this, right?
Well, you're going to dumb it down.
I'm going to try.
I've never seen you do it without dumbing it down.
I appreciate the support.
Can you snort it up after he dumps it down?
No, he cannot. He's from Texas. So if
no one's listening from Texas, Jamie. Way to roast the entire state.
I love Dalton from Texas.
Okay, fair enough.
So if you take an interstate that has a maximum speed limit of 65, and it has one of those few states that has a minimum speed limit of 40, right?
Yeah.
Who's driving 40? You know what I'm saying? And who's producing anything that says, hey, fellas.
You know who's driving 40, Jamie? The guy who's driving the car that can't go faster than 40.
Correct. Right. The what do they call them? A tractor, right? So anyway,
the go-kart.
The go-kart, right? Yeah. So truly, like that is my analogy of this is we're you can do this, yet there are folks out there saying, yeah, but this is fine, fellas. Do this.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start by just making this obvious why this isn't really even a debate. 400 feet versus 200 feet. And then I'll explain what happened here. 400 feet is it's a physics problem. You're flying at 400 feet. This is the real math. You can see 4 times as much as you can see at 200 feet. Yeah. And if the whole point of flying a drone is to go see stuff, that's the most important thing you could do, is see more stuff on the screen at any given moment.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you're spinning up a DFR program, and I know this because we tried 200 feet, then we tried 300 feet, then we tried 400 feet. When you're spinning up a DFR program, you want to reduce the amount of community complaints you get from the drone being a nuisance, or the drone worrying people, or people even knowing the drone's up. And in that scenario, 400 feet, it's a physics problem called the inverse square law of acoustics. If you're flying at 400 feet versus 200 feet, the sound profile at 400 feet is 25% of what it is at 200 feet. So it's 4 times less intense of a sound flying over your head at 400 feet, which means less people are going to even notice or call and complain, especially people who are in the constant flight path of your dock and drone if it's headed westbound, northbound, southbound, or eastbound. Now, this is obvious. Every time we do a demo, I fly at 400, then I fly at 200, and nobody ever wants 400. And we at Elk Grove became the first agency in the country to get a true 400-foot beyond visualized sight, no visual observer waiver with just radar through Aerodome, the first one ever.
Yeah.
To prove that it's possible, because the FAA agreed that this is safe and safer to do in some cases than visual observer. So why did this happen? This is kind of a classic function, and I actually got to almost tip my hat to the business cleverness of this, of companies in the space that built drones that aren't good at flying above 200 feet, then tried to convince everybody that 200 feet was actually better for them.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be better. It's fine, guys.
Carrying your cell phone with a battery pack is fine.
I mean, which I get it. As a business, if you build a drone and you're thinking, I need this drone to be LTE, and LTE towers in a lot of these areas are not designed to look up at 400 feet. They're designed to point down at the sidewalk. Your experience and connectivity at 400 feet in all these parts of your city is going to be really inconsistent. Some places might be okay, and some places it won't be. Or if you're designing a drone that needs to pack all these sensors to not hit a wall or look at a bridge really close to inspect cracks, you might not have room for that camera that's going to read a license plate super easily at 400 feet, 800 feet in that direction. Great, then the drone's not going to be as good at that.
Sure.
And if you don't have, we built our entire business model around how good we do radar and how affordable we can make radar for agencies. And if you didn't do that, and then you go to a customer and say, yeah, we can give you 400 feet, but the radar is this, it's pretty expensive. It's at this price. Customers are going to go, oh, I don't want to do that. Then of course you're going to say, but 200 feet's great.
Yeah.
Because you still want to keep that customer. So it's just a business problem of trying to convince customers to fly 200 feet, because we can fly 200 feet all day.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't recommend it.
And I think that's the biggest piece for me, right? Is the concept that if you're trying to argue that 400 isn't needed, it's just a futile argument. But if you're trying to say, we operate at 200 and 200 is okay, agencies can make that choice all day long, right? And if they say, well, for whatever reason, we're going to go with this model at 200, we've vetted this vendor and we like their product, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? It's the concept that there's this argument out there, and it blows my mind, because I'm just thinking, why would we try to argue that it's not better to be able to do that?
The misleading argument of it not being better. And to be fair, I think some of those companies are now walking back their old argument, because you can't argue against physics. It's too obvious. Right. So you got to walk it back. But the reality is, if you're an agency that's stuck in an airspace where you can't fly above 200, which, by the way, we've had some of those customers, but then our FAA teams were able to increase them to 400 anyway. And let's say you can't do that, even the FAA won't raise your grid squares, you stuck at 200 feet, then go buy the platform that's best for you 200 feet. I still think we're way better. I still think we're still significantly cheaper at the end of the day when you actually do the pricing.
Yeah.
Which is the other thing, actually, if you don't mind me talking about this, is pricing.
Yeah.
And how to actually price it. You've done this.
I have.
You had to choose what was cheaper for you. And I remember you and I talked about this when you did this at Elk Grove, and you went through pretty much everybody on the market. And there were certain companies, I remember you telling me hey, this seems cheaper, but then when I actually did the math, and if I had to cover all of Elk Grove 24/7, it ended up being way more expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
It was simple to me in that if I compared apples to apples on coverage on what we wanted to accomplish with DFR, that's when I could lay that out and go, okay, if I want to accomplish these 4 bullet points, right? And I lay each company out on those 4 bullet points, that's where things smoothed out. And that's where it rose to the top, where, okay, I'm not going to have a guy on the roof swapping batteries. I don't even know that we need to talk about that because that is just inherently logical. If you don't have to have somebody on the roof swapping batteries, why would you, right?
Sure.
So that one's easy. But when you start to look at just the time you save, personnel costs you save, and then honestly, for me, it's hard enough in government to get MOUs signed between government agencies, even harder between a private company and a government agency.
Right.
Can I fly this off of the top of your hotel?
Which we had to do that at my agency.
Yeah.
We had to sign a lease with the hospital to do that. So it's like, you're right. It becomes a lot more.
It's not the easiest thing. And now you multiply that by, well, we need 10 buildings. We need all of this space. We need all this stuff. Logistically, man, that's a nightmare, right?
It is. And like, I think that's the thing is, I feel bad. I watch, like, the vast majority of agencies, I feel like this is how I've seen it happen. I was fortunate. I got to pick DFR as my project in my department. And Keith Kaufman was the chief at the time. Keith, like he works for us now. He's like a core member of the team. And he was just like, cool, man, go run with it. And I like this stuff. But the vast majority of the time, like someone kind of gets voluntold to go figure this out, or they kind of like drones and they want to bring it in, like that happens. But then when you have to spin up the program in the agency, you have to become an expert in a lot of things very quickly. So you have to go like, well, I have to understand how the FAA does waivers potentially, or how airspace works. I have to understand like how drones operate and drone stations work, and then the software piece, and I have to think about staffing, and like I have to think about maintenance and support. You have to think about all these things. And so it's really easy for a company to potentially get like one up on you and hide the fact that like you're missing something by going to you and saying, well, with a really simple message, like our drone stations are cheaper. It's like, oh, really? So you must be cheaper.
Yeah.
But then when you actually go, hey, actually, I need to actually learn all this. Let's lay this whole thing out. Like, how much would it cost for me to get full DFR, no visual observer, at 400 feet, anywhere in my city, like the whole city, lay this out. And then they're like, oh, well, you're going to need 62 docks across 17 rooftops.
Yep.
And then on top of that, like we have these services, but don't worry, buddy, we'll discount those services right down to zero for you. But it's going to cost about this much. And you go, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, why would I want to do that much of an imprint? Like, it's not just about how much that's going to cost to implement, but it's like, now I have to manage all of these rooftops. And they're like, we're going to do that for you. And you're like, yeah, okay, thanks, man. But I'm responsible at the end of the day.
Right.
And these are rooftops in my city with landlords that I know. So you can be kind of helpful, maybe in the best case scenario.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, 17 docks or 62 docks or whatever on 17 rooftops. It's not just about how difficult it is to maintain and find and even implement that. I have to like understand, I'm going to have like pilots. How many more people do I have to staff to maintain this? Like if you gave me, like we focus on bigger. So we think about, we go to that same place and go 4 to 5 docks because our drone stations are going to cover a 38 square mile radius because our drones are almost twice as fast and stay up in the air twice as long and can go twice as far. So you can do so much more with less.
Yeah.
So just give us like a few rooftops.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about a major city rollout. Just give us a few rooftops, and this is going to be way simpler.
We got you. Yeah.
And it's cheaper. It's so much cheaper.
Question for Dalton, because as funny as this sounds, we both now come from what could be described as the old school thought process of real-time centering.
I can tell by
5
the
years
color of your
ago,
beard. It's very old school,
This took me days to grow. Yeah.
You're more 2 years, you're out of date.
Hey, listen, if you see me in 2 years, I'll just be dust up here. That's so back in the day, we used to say in the real-time space, LPR first, live camera second. And then after live cameras, you bring in other things, you bring in business video, et cetera. And then DFR hit the scene. Right? And so would you say that now? Would you say LPR first, live camera second, bring in extra stuff, DFR? Or would you say LPR first, DFR? Or would you say DFR first? Like what would you say if you were building today from any city USA?
Yeah, I think it still comes down to, obviously the problems that you're having in the city. but it's definitely moving up quickly. You know, the current issue, it seems, is that drones are not always up there all the time. You know, live cameras, they're always there watching.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, and I'd like to hear Rahul's thoughts on this. As technology keeps advancing, drones can stay up longer. They can always be there more. Now you're talking about a situation where they can see just like a live camera can. So it really starts taking that top spot, essentially, of give me the information on what occurred in the past, or give me the information on what is occurring now in the moment. So, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, like when I spun up our DFR program originally in 2020, like real-time crime centers weren't a thing yet, really. So there was no like list of things to do. We had a little bit of ALPR. We had 0 cameras that were like PTZ, you had to be able to look at stuff. Definitely didn't have like any type of OS around this, but DFR was immediately valuable for us, and it was such an easy concept to understand. I think it's the other thing is like, you might have some customers who aren't actually ready to do like a real-time crime center, but they can totally understand, the chief and the city manager and everybody can really understand, like, yeah, if I flew a drone to every call for service, I could do that.
Yeah.
And they'll do that like as a precursor to real-time crime. And then you'll see other people who are already on the real-time crime train that are just bolting this on as part of their plan. And I don't think that one is right. I think that ultimately, like you said, it's based on the city. It's based on like what you have the capacity to do. And you kind of prioritize this based on what your problems are.
Yeah.
I would definitely say go get it. Like most agencies have LPRs and some capacity. So like the more triggers you have to know what to do with a drone, go do it. But if you didn't have any LPRs and all you're doing is going to 911 calls, like great, that's how DFR started in the first place. You're not losing anything by doing that.
Yeah. That's kind of the thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, so I was going to ask you, those triggers, you know, obviously they're very, very important, especially when you're talking about mixing LPR and drones together. So kind of looking forward a little bit. I mean, you've mentioned automation a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, you automate the battery swapping.
Yeah.
You automate the drone going down to a safe level when an airplane comes. What does that look like a couple of years down the road? We're starting to mix in AI with things. How do we automate these things?
So this is actually something I like love talking about.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So thanks for asking that.
Take us away, Rahul.
Look, I think that what has been referred to as DFR 2.0, I started referring to this as DFR 2.0 like almost 2 years ago, and that phrase is now caught on, but now everyone else is using it. And I'm like, cool, you ruined my phrase. So now let me talk about DFR 3.0.
There it is.
Yeah. So look, I think the way it looks is I separate autonomy into 2 different things. You have flight autonomy and mission autonomy. Flight autonomy is something that like we can do today. That's sending the drone launching by itself, going somewhere by itself, coming back by itself, landing by itself. That's something the FAA has also reached some level of comfort with in terms of like that level of autonomy. Mission autonomy is a lot more complicated. Mission autonomy is when you like, it's not about taking someone off the roof. It's about taking somebody out of the chair potentially and having them go do something else because the drones can do the job already. Now, when you're asking how many drones can one person handle, when you have true mission autonomy, the answer is almost limitless.
Yeah.
If the drone knows, it almost like you're putting the instincts of a police officer in there, but removing any bias. So the drone knows what to do when it gets to like a burglary alarm. It knows what a broken window looks like. It knows what an open door looks like. It knows if a car is driving away from that residence at 60 miles per hour and blowing stop signs, that's suspicious. We should follow that car. It knows these things. That's when DFR reaches a level of autonomy that I would actually consider 3.0.
Yeah.
When you can get on the radio and tell the drone what to do and say, hey, Air 1, go check the backside of the house. Now, you might not want to speak on the radio because radio is like, you know, golden, but I can see what it's doing and what it's looking at. Like, this is where you get to that level of autonomy. I also think that the other aspect of autonomy is it's more along lines of like, how do we get there? I don't think it's like, we're there. What about what we have with like Flock Freeform? With Flock Freeform, we already have this where you can type in, I'm looking for a red truck with, you know, a blue bumper sticker, green bumper sticker. And it'll start looking up all the red trucks with green bumper stickers that it can find that have passed through the LPR cameras. Can you do that in real time? Can I tell the Flock Aerodome, hey, I'm looking for a red truck, and while I'm flying, it's identifying red trucks because I'm at 400 feet, fully zoomed out. The human eye can only look at a couple pixels at a time, but AI can look at every frame and look for a red truck and tell you, there's your red truck right there. And eventually, do I even have to tell the AI, look for a red truck? It's going to pull that information from our Flock 911 call transcript.
Yeah.
It's going to pull that information from the CAD integration, the CAD notes, and go, by the way, you're looking for a red truck. And then you're going, okay, cool, sounds good. This gets built over time to a point where all of a sudden you're like, I haven't touched that drone for a while. and it's pretty much done everything I need.
Yeah. And that's obviously how it needs to be, because you need less aptitude than you would have before in order to fly well.
Yeah.
Right. And so we can bring in people that never thought, I'm going to be a drone pilot.
Yeah.
Right. They can come in and they can pilot drones through software that helps them do it without needing a lot of aptitude to do that. Right. So if we talk about an agency that wants to bring DFR in, so there's a chief, a sheriff, whoever it is that are thinking, I want DFR, right? Aside from budget, what must they commit, in your opinion, to effectively have a DFR?
Okay. I'd say the number one thing is you want to have a plan for what to do if it goes well when you try it, right? Like that's number one. So think about, like, if this does everything I think it's going to do I have a plan for full city coverage? Maybe I don't have the money for it yet, but do I know that, like, if I were to start with one drone station by city and provide all this coverage, do I know that if I got these stats and what stats I need to get, that I can go to the city manager, I can go to city council, I can go to the county and say, hey, this is how useful this has been. If I put 6 stations up and get 100 plus square miles of coverage, I can go 24/7.
Yeah.
And I would staff it appropriately to do this. And staffing becomes the next thing.
Yeah.
Some agencies, they'll get the tech, but they'll try and staff it with like overtime, reserve officers, volunteers. And like you can do that for a while, but you're not going to get continuity of your program.
Yeah.
No one's going to own doing the job well if they're rotating through like a vacation station.
Yeah.
It needs to be something that's your assignment. Like we've been assigned to things and we will go, okay, cool, let me do a good job at this. Those programs go really well.
Yeah.
So commit to staffing it appropriately. And then think about, like, okay, when you're thinking about staffing, like who are the right people to actually put in charge of the program, then involved in the program? Finding people who are passionate about doing it, those people are going to drive this thing forward.
Yeah.
Volunteering someone is like, cool, you can do it, great, and you'll get a program going, but it won't always be your best foot forward.
Yeah.
So I think those things are important.
No, that's good. And that, when you think about that, because if you, again, it's the shiny object right now, right? But it also has an ROI that's very easy to demonstrate and very easy to show. This helps us with efficiency, et cetera. But it does take bodies, right? And it does take commitment, and it does take, we want to do this the right way. So just seeing agencies across the country, one thing that I always try to preach is if you're going to buy into anything, buy into it, but make sure you use it and make sure you use it well, right? Because you want to take full advantage of whatever it is you're buying.
Well, the bodies aspect is important. It's actually how we sold it to our city council, is we were able to show within 30 days of using it, how much money we were actually saving. And it was more like, if I took a body here and I put it in this chair, like if I took one person from patrol even, and I put it in this chair, they're clearing about 20-25% of the calls for service they go to with just the drone. And the impact that's having on everybody else on patrol is now reduced, like the response times to other calls. It's a butterfly effect to the other calls that those people are going to. The likelihood they're going to catch somebody, their ability to maintain a containment, for example, their ability to downgrade code 3 for liability expenses going down because no one's going to crash going through an intersection because they went to a call and determined, hey, this shouldn't be a code 3 response. Like these things add up, and it's pretty easy to eventually tie some numbers to that and say one body goes and sits in that chair, has this dramatic effect on the rest of the agency that saves us the cost of 4 to 5 bodies.
Yeah.
And that becomes an easy thing to actually scale up from a mass standpoint.
And that's legitimate, right? It is the idea that this one body is going to equal X FTEs because of all of what you just mentioned.
Dalton keeps wanting to say something, and we keep preventing
and
it,
it's
which is great.
important. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I just have one
more thing.
I just have one. Y'all talk anyway. I'm just sitting here learning stuff. But one thing that we haven't talked about is the virtual response time. This is something Jamie and I talk about a lot. Is what the future of response times looks like and measuring it virtually with technology. Like just the thought of me getting robbed and calling 911, and then a drone is over my head in how many seconds is it right now?
It's on average 85 seconds.
85 seconds?
Yeah.
Like what can we get that down to?
And just to clarify, even before you answer, that's 85 seconds after we have a place to launch that drone towards, even before the call for service is entered.
That's right.
Right. So
so that's a good point, because that's what I'm going to touch on. First of all, imagining you getting robbed is such a motivating thing for me. So if I get hyped up, it's because I'm still imagining it. But look, I break down DFR response speed in 4 basic principles. The first one Jamie kind of touched on, which is how soon do you decide to launch? Like your response only starts when the drone takes off and starts going somewhere. And what we do, obviously, as you know, with Flock 911 is that's integrated directly into Flock Aerodome. So the moment an 911 call comes in, it's like at less than a 1 second lag. The pilot sees a call just came in and the transcript is coming in live and even translated to like English. And it'll come in and say, hey, my name's so-and-so, I'm at this address and there's a guy here with a gun. You can, not only is that coming in, but we have a deal with Apple. We've prepared our partners, one of the only companies out there that has a deal that shows the location of that iPhone and where that iPhone is. So we know exactly where to fly to without that person even saying it, that, hey, we can go quick. Mm-hmm. So immediately I'm going to launch. And I'm not waiting for someone to dispatch my DFR unit or for that to go into the CAD for me to pull it even through the CAD integration. I know where to go and I'm going to launch. I'm going to fly to that right now. That's number one. Number two, how quickly can I launch? We don't use drone stations that are going to take 30 seconds, 20 seconds. No, we launch in seconds. Yeah. So right off the bat, boom, drone's up in the air when I click the launch button. Then how fast can I fly? That's number three. Our slowest drone is over 50 miles per hour. And we built this whole process and the business model around, go ahead and fly that drone. If I have to replace the motors or the propellers or the batteries or whatever, I want you to fly top speed to calls for service. You go do that. Our faster drones, like I said, are 100 miles per hour with our eVTOL fixed wings coming out this year. Those are incredible when it comes to speed. And then lastly, virtual response. Like I said, you don't need the drone directly over the calls for service to be valuable. If your Zoom capability is built with a larger drone in mind and it's strong enough, you can start seeing that suspect 1 mile away while you're still a mile out. Whereas other drones still have to be within 400 feet to understand what's actually happening there. That makes it a lot harder. So those four principles are how we drive. Where do we optimize each one of these four things to reduce that response time down to like 15 seconds? Mm-hmm. When you actually have that fixed wing that's just in a loiter spot for the city, waiting for that call for service, and then call comes out, Flock 911 call, cool, I got it. That person's still on the phone. I can guarantee you they have not hung up yet before that drone's up in the sky. Dispatch will see them on the phone almost every single time.
And this is why I think drones are so incredibly important to the future of public safety, because having that capability, that is such a deterrent to criminal activity. Like if bad guys know, if I commit a crime, there's a drone looking at me in 20 seconds, do you think they're going to commit crimes at that point?
20 seconds from the time you committed the crime.
Think about the whole ecosystem, actually. Yeah. Like, if you tie all this together, actually, it's funny when Garrett came to me and said, like, hey, let's bring Aerodome into Flock. And I sat there and I explained, even just the partnership before the acquisition, I explained this to my investors. This is what I said. I said, look, I want you to think about this. If a city has LPR cameras across all of the areas where someone could possibly be driving a stolen car through, and we have drone stations that are placed appropriately with drones that can go very fast. Every single time a stolen vehicle, which is just a vessel for crime, our viewers know this, a stolen vehicle rides around and starts capering the neighborhood and drives past and gets pinged on one of the LPR cameras, and a drone gets there in 15 seconds, let's just say, they're going to get caught every single time. And like you said, Scottsdale PD, the chief just said that in a video we did with him, where he said, I want the criminal element to know you drive a stolen car this in our jurisdiction, you commit a crime in our jurisdiction, we're there in 15 seconds. Your chances of getting away are zero. People just decide crime is about opportunity. They decide the opportunity to get away here is very low. I'll just go to the neighboring city. And that's when that city calls and says, we got to get Flock set up here because we want to push them that way too.
Yeah.
Yep. It's interesting, man. So, higher altitudes, faster speeds, longer on-station time, less bodies to do battery swapping, easier to operate on a UX, UI, et cetera, right? So, simple.
Yep.
Simple to understand. So, this has been a fascinating episode for me, primarily because you're here, Dalton and
I literally felt the same exact way.
Yeah, that's good. So, we're pretty in tune here. Thank you. Next time, I would appreciate it if you would wear what we were wearing. The memos, they come.
Of course, guys.
He's going to show up in a tie. We're going to have,
and you're going to wear Hawaiian shirts. I know. I'm going to bring both just in case. I'm going to bring both. Flops. You can't. What George Bush said: "Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, you can't get fooled again."
That's right.
Hey, we're going to hit him with some rapid fire.
I'd like to.
Yeah. Let's get it for him. Can we start us out?
Yeah.
It's okay.
So I got one.
Yeah.
Mexican food or barbecue? We got stumped him.
That's an easy one.
No, barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
That's a Memphian right there.
That is a Memphian. You might be Memphian. We're not
I
certain
might
yet.
be.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I was
Jamie or Dalton?
yeah. I mean, this is a good
That's easy.
ongoing one.
Neither.
My man.
Neither one.
That's the best answer. Yeah.
Get me out of here.
Yeah. Hey, Darren Hole, shout out, has both Dalton's face and my face tattooed on his back.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he was on our podcast, and those who come on the podcast as guests do the back tattoo.
Uh-huh.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. We
Yeah, guys.
appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, guys.
It was fun.
See ya.
Thanks.